going to invite Catherine Brown to come now and to read our in memoriam list. Would you please stand?
I'm going to read the names of 21 people who passed away in 2022, and this will be followed by a moment's silence. Janet Carlson, B. Charon, Ron Fathers, Helen Filiatro, Agnes Gibson-Brenton, Ron Harding, Rob Hare, Betty Hawkins, Jean Livingstone, Margaret Kurtz, Helen McEachran, Betty McMurchie, June Mann, Bill Murray, Sally Patton, Willa Rentner, Edith Richens, Dr. Scott Russell, Bonnie Sewell, Roger Shackle, Dr. Ovis Wag. From Revelation. Then I heard a voice from heaven say, "Write this, blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from now on. Yes, says the Spirit, they will rest from their labor, for their deeds will follow them." Please be seated.
We often do this at our annual meeting, but as worship and work are one, I'd like to do it here. And that is to recognize our staff members, all of whom bring special gifts and abilities that God has given them to create our staff team. If you look at our church budget, you'll see that a sizable amount of our expenses is dedicated to staff. And sometimes, to be honest, members of a congregation don't know exactly what staff members do, unless they're involved in the ministry area that staff member directs. Or we only get a small glimpse of what they do. So let me give you the inside scoop. Your staff members interface with people every day. They minister to people every day. They are, to many, both inside and outside the church, the face of this congregation, the first line of contact. They're often the first to hear people's stories, their hopes and fears, their hurts and burdens, oh yes, and their complaints. That's as true for our office administrator as it is for our director of pastoral care, for our organist and director of music assistant as it is for our director of music ministries, and for our acting director of children and youth, as it is for our custodian and for your minister. So I would like to acknowledge the staff this morning. And if they're present, I'd like them to stand wherever they are so that we can acknowledge them. Catherine Brown, who I know is here. Deb Fitzsimmons. Bev Kennedy, who actually left with the children but can watch this in video afterwards. Cindy Lewis, who's right over there, Mac McAlpine, if Mac's here this morning, and Marlene Weatherall, our administrator, who actually is homesick, but I'm sure is watching this. Let's express our appreciation to our staff. Another major line in our church budget are our gifts to Presbyterian Sharing. Please watch the video.
Through Presbyterian Sharing, Presbyterians across Canada are sharing God's love. When we give to Presbyterian Sharing, we participate in God's mission. Out of every $100, $59 equips congregations and ministries. $14 accompanies international partners. $12 supports ministries with Indigenous people. $9 provides financial and administration services. $4 supports governance, and $2 advocates for justice. When we put our gifts in God's hands, God does remarkable things. We equip ministers, theological students, youth, lay leaders, and more, all part of building strong congregations and ministries. We bring hope and transformation to vulnerable individuals and communities. We support ministries meeting physical and spiritual needs with and for Indigenous communities in Canada.
You've got to love technology. That was half the video, but you can go on to the Presbyterian website and find that video and watch it for yourself. But the point of the video is, of course, that the dollars that we give to Presbyterian Sharing every year, I think 24,000 this year, or last year, goes into ministry to people. And that's what we're all about. It's ministering to people. So I've called what we're going to do this morning Moments of Celebration. We've already celebrated our staff and acknowledged and celebrated our gifts to Presbyterian Sharing. We're actually going to do an interactive message this morning because in a few minutes I'm going to invite some people forward to fill these seats. We're going to talk about some areas of ministry that our congregation is involved in. But again, the key thing I want you to remember is this, that behind the figures in our financial statements from last year, behind the figures in this year's budget is ministry to people, ministry to our community, ministry in the wider world. In fact, even the upkeep of our building, which is another major line item, is about having a safe and clean place for people to be present at, to making it available for weddings and funerals and choir and cantata performances and live theatre. Let's never forget that the church is not a building. The church is a people. So, talking about people, let's celebrate our choir and our band and our instrumentalists and our Burning Bush Theatre Group and our children's choir, because they fall into a very 1,000-year history of people who have led God's people in worship. And especially I want to thank the choir for the great Christmas cantata in December for the wonderful music you provided, choir members, during Holy Week, because you're a great example of how we can all work together as we share our gifts. Let's show our appreciation to the choir. Now, two other quick moments of celebration before I invite our guests forward. And that is, firstly, to tell you that our search committee has now completed our congregational profile. It has now been uploaded to our church website, where you can all have a look at it, and that we are now open to receiving applications for our new minister. And in fact, on Saturday, I got our first inquiry already. So that's encouraging. Thank you to the search committee for all their work, because they really work very hard to get that document done. Often it can take a congregation 18 months to get that done. They've done it in less than 8. And in my opinion, I'm a little bit biased, but in my opinion, it's one of the finest profiles I've seen in 45 years in ministry. The second announcement is from the session, and that is that we are announcing today that we've decided to add 6 new elders to session. 1 to replace an elder who has completed their 6-year term, and 5 to fill vacancies that exist on session and that are presently being filled by a number of our sustaining elders. Electing elders is one of the most important things that a congregation can do. So today, when you're leaving, either after worship or after the annual meeting, I want to encourage you to pick up this document. It looks a little bit different, the copies you'll be picking up, but to pick up this document, it's called Becoming an Elder. What does it mean to be an elder? And next Sunday, I'm going to be back here. I'm going to be talking about Eldership 101. What's the biblical background for us electing elders and having elders in a leadership role? And next Sunday, your ballot packets will be available for you to pick up as well. So let me invite our 4 guests forward now this morning. Yancey Lawrenson, Jacqueline Patterson-Sheffer, Ron Minette, and Heather Cavall. If you'd like to come and to take your seats.
You want to go?
Now I know how Oprah felt just before they went live. Let me remind you, we are live. So, I'm going to begin with Yancey. Yancey, I know you're part of the tech team. You're a member of the search committee. You're one of the sustaining elders presently serving in session. But I actually don't want you to speak about any of that stuff this morning. I'd like you to speak as a volunteer in our pastoral care ministry. We know that First Church has a very dedicated and diverse pastoral care team of over 70 members who demonstrate Christ's love and compassion in various ways. Can you tell us some of the things that the team does?
Well, is it? No, it's not on.
Yeah, you're on.
I can hear you.
You're on now.
I've written notes because the work that the pastoral care team does is so comprehensive. There are a number of things that are done to help so many people and so many members of our congregation. There are one-on-one visitors, visiting in nursing homes, retirement homes, and private homes. There's dog therapy for those who would benefit from a visit by a trained dog. Spiritual support for those in hospital and are at the end of the life. There are drivers who take people to their medical appointments, and some of which are as far as Toronto. Meals are prepared for those who are ill or grieving the loss of a loved one. And there are those who are creative, making special seasonal gifts for the seniors. Some do deliveries, taking gifts, food, and any church information. Other gifts include grocery cards for those experiencing hardship. And they're a great team of knitters who provide lap blankets and prayer shawls. And there are monthly worship services that take place in nursing homes and retirement homes. And Catherine has a lovely support of a small group from our choir who accompany her with singing of hymns and scripture reading.
So why did you become a member of the team, and why is it important to you?
Well, I think that is so important for all members of our family, especially those who are not able to attend church services, either because of illness or just having difficulty in attending, that they're not forgotten, that they're loved and they're cared for. And then there's also the comfort that they receive, knowing that there's always someone they can call on if they need help. In essence, I think the program is so important. I wanted to be a part of it and just to help towards this wonderful effort and to be a disciple of Christ.
So just to wrap up, what kind of response do you get from those who are reached by this ministry?
I think there's the warming of the hearts, just knowing that they are loved and they're not forgotten. There's a comfort level too when they realize there's always someone there for them. And in turn, I think when you visit and get to know someone, you get a lot of, they show care for you, and lovely friendships are developed. And most importantly, love is shared.
Thank you, Yancy. Well, our next guest is going to be Jacqueline, or to put it in a baseball metaphor, she's now on deck. I wasn't your intermoderator very long until Jacqueline and some friends came to me with an idea to begin a family intergenerational event ministry. And so persuasive is Jacqueline that I said, let's go ahead. But last Sunday, you know, you get a minister on an Easter Sunday when he's tired after a busy Holy Week. He'll agree to almost anything. Jacqueline came up and said, "You're playing in our church ball team, aren't you, Neil?" Well, Jacqueline, I have to tell you that the Blue Jays were really disappointed when I signed with First Church and not with them, because now they don't know who's selling popcorn. So Jacqueline, tell me why you and others were so passionate about our need to start a family intergenerational ministry and why it's so important.
I grew up at First, and it has been so important to who I am today. Just those relationships when you're young, being in what was the cherubs back then to Sunday school, and I always pick on poor Mrs. Stransky, but it made a big difference in my life, having those people that cared, that showed me the way, that set that example, and I like to think that I gave them some enjoyment, though my parents say I aged them dramatically, but I mean, I think there's a huge interplay between the young and all the generations, that everybody benefits from that love that's shared.
So what kind of events have we held so far? And looking ahead, apart from this ball team you signed me up for, what's coming up?
So the ones that we have had, just to name a few, we just had a great Easter egg hunt, and we also had like the pumpkin patch. We've had the barbecue and the bonfire over at Angela's. We've had a bunch of really great events. We've had the Halloween event that actually was a huge success, and the kids came and go between Halloween trick-or-treating, and they really enjoyed it, as well, so do we, to see them with their little outfits on and stuff like that. Coming up, there's a biking event where we'll have all different groups will be going off, and so if you want to go up, say, Grey Road 19, we have a group leader that's going to be leading that, and if you have the little ones that want to learn how to bike, we're going to have something set up in the parking lot as well for that, so we'll have all different things for that. Of course, we have the baseball team, we have the fairy garden event. We're going to be having a wellness event. We're not quite sure on what's happening quite there yet. And of course, the church barbecue is the big one coming up as well.
Okay, and for those who don't want to be anywhere near a bike, I'll be leading a group at Tim Hortons.
There you go. There you go.
As we and our goal will be to watch them all ride past.
Perfect.
Yeah. So who can come to these events?
Everyone is a member of First Press family, so everyone is invited. We have something always, like if you want to watch the kids, and we'll have, at the biking event, for example, we will have a way that you can watch and cheer them on and that, but everyone is welcomed to every event.
Thanks, Jacqueline. Ron, how are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Ron and Pauline are very involved in our community dinners, along with a very committed core of volunteers. And I know that this is really an increasing need in our community. So can you tell us what goes into providing a community dinner, and how many people are being helped every month?
Well, to start with, Pauline and I are part of a very large team that put this together, and a lot of the people are sitting in this church today. But I can't talk about community dinner without talking and thanking and remembering Linda Gendron and Joe for the devotion that they put into this project, especially Joe's soup, for those that remember. We are now required to prepare all of the meals in the church, and a group of dedicated volunteers make this possible. During COVID, we were serving about 150 and maxed out at about 180 people per month with our meals. It's a long answer. But things have changed. With our kitchen now completely renovated, we did our first in-house dinner in March. We served approximately 60 people who thoroughly enjoyed the meal, the music, and being waited on. Most went home with takeouts from Cobb's Bread and leftovers from the meal. The following day, we were also able to prepare family meals with the leftovers that were left, and they were sent out with the grocery hamper program to our families that didn't have transportation. So from Pauline and I and everybody involved, a big thank you for everyone that baked, cooked, cleaned, and helped make our first in-house after COVID a big success.
So what kind of needs does this ministry have that perhaps people aren't aware of?
The way we see it, it's additional needs. We not only provide essential food, clothing, and household items, but in many cases we end up mentoring these families. Single parents often don't have anyone to talk through difficult times. And they truly appreciate the guidance and the listening ear that our volunteers provide. And whether it be from a troubled teen or health problems, we are there. We answer our phone calls. To back us up, we have teachers, pastors, social workers that we can call upon to help us through the problems that we don't feel that we are equipped to deal with. I think trust is a very important word.
Okay, and just as a final question, why do you think it's important for us to put our faith into action?
To me, faith is action. The Bible asks us to love our neighbors and take care of the sick and the hungry. Being a good Christian means more than just spending an hour in church on Sunday. For us, it has been a full-time, on-call duty done with love and compassion. The positive results, however, we have seen with the families we are caring for, and definitely uplifting.
Thanks, Ron. Sitting on my left is Mrs. Camp Cairn. That's what she's known as, Mrs. Camp Cairn. And I know that Heather has spoken often about camp, but I want to ask her a little bit more about a personal perspective on this. But before we do that, where is Camp Cairn and who can go to it?
So Camp Karen is located in Muskoka on Echo Lake. The Presbyterian Church owns a parcel of land that's 197 acres. You may think, wow, that's great. It's mostly swamp. I've walked most of it. And, you know, anyone can go. You can go for a day, you could go for a week, you could go for a weekend. Anyone, absolutely anyone. Old, young. Camp's not just for kids.
Is there a reason you said old and looked at me?
I was looking at you for young, too.
So, what does church camping mean to you and to your family, and how has it influenced your faith?
So I'll be really honest, I'm not a camper. I didn't grow up as a camper. I didn't get the chance to go to camp as a kid. Camp to us means everything, and camp ministry touches more people than you would ever imagine. So my son Alex works at camp. His name is Sturix there. I don't know. He'll always be Alex for me. But I will tell you that he says that a large part of the staff, even the kids that come to camp, aren't church kids. He said, but this is a place where we can touch them and change what they believe. It's a place for kids to grow. It's a place for adults to grow. I met some of my very closest adult friends. You know, you have friends that you've had for a long time, and then you have those friends that you make as an adult. I've met some of my closest adult friends at camp. Maybe I knew them before, but now I really know them. And I didn't meet them as a kid. I met those people as adults. When you drive down the camp road, if you've never been there, you won't understand. Maybe we can arrange a visit sometime. When you drive down the camp road, there's this something happens. I'm looking at Jessica. The sense of peace that hits you about halfway down the camp road is incredible. It's like everything from the day has been thrown out, and there you are with God in that place.
It's been a long time since my children went to camp. It's even longer since I was there. How much is an average week at camp this year?
An average week at camp, not a canoe trip, but you do get to do everything that camp has. So you can go canoeing in the lake, you can do all of those things, you can do crafts, you can do music, all of that, but not a canoe trip. And 1 week only is, with taxes, about $798.
The reason I shared that was because some of us remember sending our children to camp when it was like $100. So I know that at First Church, we have helped families send their children and young people to camp. How important is that we keep doing that?
Wow. So Last year, I think we helped send, I'm not sure how many kids we helped send. Denman might be able to be better with that, or 13 kids. We helped 13 kids to get to camp last year. And by helping, I will tell you that the honest truth is we gave each one of those kids about $85. So those families still had to come up with quite a lot. So you can donate right through our church. The other place you can donate is directly through Camp Karen. They have a group called the Cornerstone Club, or the Cornerstone Crew, if I was to get it correctly. And it's a monthly donor, and it means everything. And there are different stages. If you give $20 a month, you can see exactly what that provides. If you give $50 a month, you can see exactly what that provides. It helps with instruments. It helps with new canoes for the camp. Those things all wear out. When you see 300 kids go through camp in a week, all of a sudden the canoes take quite a beating when you take them on a canoe trip. Tents get broken, like things happen when they're out there and they need to be replaced. So the expense of camp is important, but not just for the camp, but to get the kids there and to make it great when they're there. There's a sign when you drive down the road that says, "Welcome home." That's how you feel.
Thank you. Thank you to Ron, to Yancy, to Heather, and to Jacqueline for sharing a little bit of the human side of what you read in our annual report this year. These are all moments of celebration. I could have brought up another group of congregational leaders to talk about different things. This is just a taste of things we can celebrate together and ways in which we can bless ourselves and our communities by our involvement. So as we reposition ourselves, our hymn is an anniversary annual meeting type hymn, "Come Sing O Church in Joy."